I want to speak to something that lives heavily in the internet space, not to validate rumors, but to challenge how we think, react, and move as a people. Right now, the word plant gets used very loosely. If someone shows up, visibly speaks boldly, or isn't familiar to everyone, suspicion comes quickly. And I think it's worth asking, what are we really responding to? The person or our own unhealed distrust? Because at the same time, there are influences that move freely throughout our culture every single day without question. Music, media, and imaginary that over-sexualize women, normalize violence in our neighborhoods, glorify self-destruction, and disconnect our children from self-love, from community, and from responsibility. These messages are mainstream. They reach our babies before we do. So my question is, how do we learn to tell the difference between someone doing visible, uncomfortable work in the community and systems that quietly shape behavior, values, and identity on a mass scale? And at one point, does constant suspicion becomes a distraction that weakens collective power rather than protecting it? If we are quick to interrogate organizers and elders but slow to interrogate industries that profit from our dysfunction, what does that say about where our discernment is being directed? I'm also thinking about the future. None of us are here forever. Every generation eventually passes the torch. So how intentional are we about preparing the loved ones coming after us? Not just to lead, but to survive what's ahead with clarity, self-love, and community-mindedness. When misunderstandings arise, and they will, what does it look like for a community to pause, ground itself, verify, and communicate before reacting publicly? And lastly, for all of us listening, when do we stop to ask ourselves whether fighting against something potentially powerful is actually slowing our progress? How do we move forward without turning on each other and build something strong enough that doesn't depend on one person, one voice, or one moment, but on shared wisdom and shared responsibility? I want to take a moment to address something that created a lot of confusion, conversation, and reaction, especially online. Recently, the chairman of the Philly chapter made the decision to step away from the name associated with Black Panther Party and move forward under the new banner, the Black Lion Party International Solidarity. From what's being shared, the decision wasn't about erasing history, but about clarity, about not being entangled in internal conflicts, misunderstandings, or structural issues that could distract from the work being done on the ground. And I think it opens up a larger question for all of us. When does a name serve the mission, and when does it complicate it? Movement carry weight, history, and expectation. Sometimes they also carry unresolved structures, disagreements, or legacies that newer generations are forced to navigate without having created them. So how do organizers decide when it's better to reform from within and when it's healthier to build something new with clearer alignment and accountability? Another layer here is perception. In our communities, there's often skepticism towards organizations that feel closed off, hierarchy, or difficult to understand, especially when transparency isn't clear to the people they claim to serve. Whether that perception is fair or not, it still affects trust. So how important is organizational clarity, not just in leadership, but in communication with the community? I also want to speak to something broader. When we see disagreements between groups, parties, or movements, it's easy for conversations to turn into comparison, suspicions, or dismissal. But what if instead we ask, is the work being done? Are the people being served? Moving forward under the new name, the Black Lion Party International Solidarity. And what clarity did that change create for you? So, I want to ask you, when an organization's internal structures or disagreements begin to distract from the work on the ground, how does a leader decide whether to reform from within or build something new?
Well, he has to take a look at the situation and he has to ask himself if holding on to what was in the past is doing more harm or is it helping? And if it seems that it's doing more harm, he has to treat it like a limb that's rotting or diseased, and he has to cut it off.
Sure. How important is transparency and organizational structure when it comes to maintaining trust within the community you serve?
If the community don't know what's going on, if they can't clearly see it, they're not going to trust you. You know, the phantom organizations, the ghost organizations with all that weird secret stuff where they can't talk to you or nothing like that, the community don't trust them. The community, that's why the community doesn't rally around them.
and I met him giving back to the people. And I lived in New York. I lived in New York since childhood, and the only time I seen the Black Panther Party, well, my bonus granddad was a Black Panther, God rest his soul. But when the African American Day Parade came around, it was on floats. That part. So, what lessons did you take from working under or alongside movements historically associated with the Black Panther Party, and how are those lessons being applied differently now?
One lesson that I learned is don't do nothing don't follow nobody into nothing or doing nothing that they aren't doing. You know, those elders they took us under their wing and gave us the permission to be Black Panthers. You know, I should have made them come out and say that before I listened to it, because it's a lot of turmoil and trauma that could have been stopped because of it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, my comrades know, you know, I'm not going to tell you to do nothing and I'm not already doing it, or I don't go out and do it first. You know what I'm saying? So I learned that, you know, even in collaboration, you know, you want us to collaborate with you, the thing that you want us to collaborate now, we need to see you doing that before we're going to get involved with you doing that. We need to know you for real.
And it's pretty whack for them to throw somebody underneath the bus if they give you permission to do certain things.
It is.
Evaluate more closely the name of a movement or the actual outcome and impact it has on the community?
Definitely, you know, they say actions speak louder than words. You know, I think you judge a tree by its fruit. You know, if it's an apple tree and, you know, it's known historically for being an apple tree, and back in the day it produced some nice apples. If it ain't producing no apples now, is it still an apple tree? I mean, I think that you are what you do. You know, if you say you're a lyricist, you don't ever write no lyrics. Are you a lyricist? If you say that you're a novelist, and the last novel you wrote was 30 years ago, are you still currently a novelist, or were you at one point in time a novelist? You know, if you say you're a revolutionary and an activist, but you're not out in the community, actively serving the community, at one point in time you may have been one, but you ain't one right now.
That part. What safeguards do you believe moments should have in place to prevent hierarchy, ego, or power struggles from overshadowing collective responsibility?
Well, I think it should be a requirement, you know what I'm saying, that humility is put into actual practice, that manifests itself in physical forms that can be seen, you know. You know, for instance, when you started this video, I stood back there. You guys had to talk all that crap to me to get me coming to the front. You know, downstairs people wanted to speak and I let them speak. It wasn't all about me speaking. I answered everybody's questions, no matter how challenging the question was. I bore my soul. I let y'all see a tear run down my face. I told you my personal pain and my personal trauma, right? If the leader ain't doing that, then you shouldn't follow.
Agreed.
You forgot that one.
How do you respond to skepticism or criticism without allowing it to derail the mission or turn into internal conflict?
I don't. If you're skeptical and you don't trust what I say or what we're saying, come see for yourself. That's a response. Seeing is believing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to convince you with nothing. You know, come see for yourself or don't. But if you don't show up, like those people that doubted, and was talking about on the internet that you didn't see show up today, they ain't got no business talking about nothing because they didn't show up. You know? So it was so many people here today. There's people standing outside and upstairs and everywhere, right? And we had to remove all the tables to make more room for people, and you know, people standing, you know, and I ain't seen not one of them cats that was talking all that gibberish online in the crowd.
You won't.
You know, so really their claims are unsubstantiated. Their concern is unsubstantiated, and it's unsubstantiated. Unsubstantiality is proven in the fact that they didn't show up to validate it. You know?
When misunderstandings arise between organizations or within movements, what does healthy conflict resolution look like before things escalate publicly?
A private conversation. You know, a private conversation where both people are given, or both sides are given an opportunity to express what they think and what they feel, without having to face ridicule or, you know, over talking or interrupting and stuff and disrespect from the other side. You know.
I agree. Looking forward, what principles are you prioritizing to make sure that this next chapter remains focused on unity, accountability, and long-term community empowerment?
Well, all of the tendencies of someone driven by ego or somebody driven by individualism or opportunistic people, adventurous, adventurism, people that are just wanting to run out there and do whatever. As soon as I see that, I separate. You gotta go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Keeping it militant. Another thing, the elders at one point in time wanted me to slack on the rules. And I'm not doing that. The rules are going to remain strict. And if the rules are too much for you, the party's too much for you. The party doesn't need to become easier to be part of. You need to become stronger. And the party could be the way you do that. And the rules could be the way you do that.
So, I hope that you learned something here today, Ashe, and it gives you a lot to think about, and you need to do a lot of self-reflection before you comment on somebody's internet behind your phone, sitting on your couch, and having something to say. Period. And this is your girl, Nubian Empress, and of course we have Chairman Paul and the dope-ass Lion Party International Solidarity, and we're over and out. It's your favorite self-love coach and a child healer. Sending you peace, love, and light vibrations. I fucking love you.
Lion. All power to the people.
All power to the people. That part.
It's my shit. This is my new family. I ain't going nowhere. Y'all gonna have to. I ain't leaving Philly. Nowhere. My family.